Got a good video for you guys today. I'm going to be hopping into a MLB team tier list. We're going to be ranking each team based off of how they're looking heading into this 2022 season. And I figured it'd be a good time for this video because we're less than a week away from the start of the regular season, so I'm pretty hyped and I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well. And also one last thing before we start the video, I do end up putting a lot of teams in the playoff team category, but by putting them in that category, I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team. I just basically think all those teams in that category have a shot at making the playoffs. So with that in mind, let's hop right into the video. All right, so starting off here with the Tampa Bay Rays, they are clearly a very good team. They necessarily don't have the best roster in the world, but their coaching staff is amazing. I think the Tampa Bay Rays have to be considered a World Series contender. Moving on to the Cardinals, they have a pretty solid roster top to bottom. I'm not a huge fan of their pitching staff. I don't think they're quite a World Series contender, but I do think they are a playoff team. Next up, we have the Colorado Rockies, who have made some questionable moves this offseason, adding Chris Bryant and Randall Grichuk. They should probably be tanking, but they're trying to compete, it looks like, but they're still, in my opinion, a below-average team. Next up, I have the Detroit Tigers, made some big offseason acquisitions with Javier Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez. I still don't think they're competitors, but I do think they're an average team. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates. Not much to say here. They are trash. They don't have much major league caliber players right now outside of Brian Reynolds and a couple other young players. San Diego Padres, they, in my opinion, are a very good team. I think they are a World Series contender. I'm a big fan of their starting rotation. They're getting some big pieces back, and they just added Sean Manaea, so I really am a big fan of San Diego this year. Next up, I have the Texas Rangers. Big offseason acquisitions, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. A lot better than last year, I think they will be, but I still don't think they're quite going to compete. I still think they're slightly below average. I want to put them in the average category. They're kind of on the edge there. I'll toss them in the below average category. Arizona Diamondbacks. Very bad team last year. Probably the worst team in baseball. I think they were the worst team record-wise. They're going to have a healthy Ketel Marte. Zach Allen is already starting out with some shoulder issues, which is not good. I don't think they're trash. I think they're going to be improved. I think they're going to win around 70 games. So I think they're below average. They're closer to trash than these other two teams, but I don't want to put them down there with the Pirates. Chicago White Sox, very good team, tops to bottom. Lots of talent in their starting rotation, in their bullpen, and of course in their offense. They are a World Series contender. They haven't shown us much in the past couple postseasons, but based off of their roster on paper, they are a World Series contender. Next up, we have the Minnesota Twins. The Twins, in my opinion, aren't quite a playoff team. They did add Carlos Correa and Sonny Gray, so they've been making some offseason moves to try to improve off of last year's roster, but I don't think they're quite, I don't think they're quite a playoff team. I think they're right in the average category. Washington Nationals. If this team didn't have Juan Soto, it wouldn't even be close. I think they'd be the worst team in baseball, but since they have Juan Soto, they're not going to be the worst team in baseball. I mean, I still think they are trash because really all they have is Juan Soto and Josh Bell, so not too good of a team here. Cincinnati Reds made a lot of moves to pretty much tell everyone they don't want to compete this year. I don't want to put them in the trash category. I think they're slightly above it. I think they could win close to 70 games, but they're clearly not a good team. Oakland A's, same exact deal as the Cincinnati Reds. They are selling every single good player they have. The only player left is Frankie Montas. So I have to put them in the trash category. They're clearly tanking. Philadelphia Phillies. Now, this is an interesting one because they have a very good roster. They added Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber, so they have a very good offense. Their starting rotation is pretty good as well. Their only question is their bullpen. They have Corey Knebel. Maybe he can be a consistent closer for Philadelphia. I like Philadelphia this year, so I'm going to put them as a playoff team. Toronto Blue Jays. On paper, in my opinion, outside of the Dodgers, they're probably the best team in baseball. I love this team top to bottom. I'm a big fan of their offense, and they have very good pitching staff. I'm a big fan of Jordan Romano, so I think they are a World Series contender. Houston Astros. This is a tough one. I think they're right on the edge of a World Series contender and a playoff team. It all really depends on how Justin Verlander comes back. I think if he pitches great, then Houston could really make a World Series run. If he's bad, I don't think they're going to come close to it. I'm going to put them at the... I think they're a playoff team. I'm not going to put them in the World Series contender because I don't want to put too many World Series contenders. But clearly I wouldn't be surprised if they do make a World Series run. Atlanta Braves, the reigning World Series champions, they pretty much swapped out Freddie Freeman for Matt Olson, which in my opinion at this point is an upgrade. I'm a huge fan of Matt Olson, great offensive and defensive first baseman. The Braves are World Series contenders. Los Angeles Angels, they are the definition of average. I hate to say it. They have great talent. They have Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon. With those players, you think they would be a World Series contender year in and year out, but year in and year out, they haven't had great pitching, so I think they're going to be the same as years past. Boston Red Sox. Big loss with Chris Sale being out at least 2 months. They just put him on the 60-day IL, so that's going to be a big hit for them. Their pitching rotation is a little bit questionable. I'm a big fan of their offense, however. They're slightly above average. I'm not sure if they're a playoff team, though, but I guess I'll put them in the playoff team category because I think they are above average. San Francisco Giants. They're above average, similar to the Red Sox. I'm not sure if they're going to be a playoff team, but I'll put them in the playoff team because they're playoff team caliber. They might not make it, but I do think they are above average. Chicago Cubs. This is a tough one. I'm not sure if I'm going to put them in the below average category. I'm really not too big on this team. They have a couple good starting pitchers in Marcus Stroman and Kyle Hendricks, but I really don't like this roster top to bottom. Cleveland Guardians, they are an average team, in my opinion. They have an MVP and Cy Young candidate in Shane Bieber and Jose Ramirez, but not too much else going on. They do have a good rotation, so I think they're going to finish around 500. I think that rotation is good enough to get them 80-plus wins. Los Angeles Dodgers, they are clearly a World Series contender. They are, on paper, the best team in baseball. They are good year in and year out, and nothing has changed from that. They're still going to be a very good team. New York Mets. Tough one here because they are, on paper, definitely a playoff team. Maybe even could be considered a World Series contender on paper. But they're the New York Mets. Year in and year out, they disappoint. Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom are already dealing with some injuries to start the season. So I can't disrespect them and put them in the average category. They're clearly above average on paper. They might finish as an average team, but I'll just put them in the playoff team category just because of how good they are on paper. Seattle Mariners. I am huge on Seattle this year. I think they could take the AL West. A lot of people are still picking Houston to win the division, but I think Seattle has the makings of winning the American League West. They have Julio Rodriguez, who I'm a huge fan of, Jared Kelenic, Jesse Winker they picked up. They have a really good bullpen, so I think they're going to be a playoff team this year. They at least have the makings of a playoff team on paper. New York Yankees. This is a tough one. They have Garrett Cole. They have a good offense. I'm not too big of a fan of their starting rotation outside of Garrett Cole. They are definitely above average. I can't put them in the average category. I'm putting a ton of teams in the playoff team category, but the playoff team category basically means they have the potential to be a playoff team. I'm not saying every single team here in this playoff team category is going to make the playoffs, but I'm saying they have the potential to be a playoff team pretty much. Miami Marlins, very good starting rotation. One of the best starting rotations in baseball. I'm big on Miami this year. If you didn't see my season prediction video, check that out. I just posted that a couple days ago. But for Miami, I think their pitching staff is going to win them a lot of games this year, and I'm a big fan of Miami. I think they have the makings of a playoff team. Baltimore Orioles, they're still trash. They're going to be improved off of last year, I think. But when you're playing in as good of a division as the AL East is, they're not going to win much more games. So I do think they're going to be a better team, but their record is not going to show for it because they're in such a good division. Kansas City Royals. One of, if not the worst, starting rotations in baseball. Zach Greinke's their ace. And don't get me wrong, I like Zach Greinke, but at this day and age, he's clearly not what he once was and is by no means an ace. I like their offense a lot. They have Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, a lot of talented offensive bats, that is. But that pitching rotation, I want to say Kansas City could make a postseason run and make the playoffs, but with that starting rotation, I just can't do it. I think they are still a below average team because of how bad their pitching is. Milwaukee Brewers, one of the best rotations in baseball. They have a three-headed monster in Corbin Burnes, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta. Christian Yelich, I think, is going to have a bounce-back year. I don't think they're quite World Series contenders, but I do think they are going to most likely make the postseason and win the NL Central this year. They're a very good team, and I think they are going to have a very good year. All right, so there you have my first team tier list of 2022. Let me know what you guys think down below, where you agree or disagree. And as always, if you guys do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to continue to post a lot more baseball videos here as we inch closer to the 2022 season. And lastly, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.